Good morning, learners and viewers. Welcome to the session of Masters of Business Administration. And today this session is for project management, that is MMPO 002. We will be continuing with Unit 2. Last time we were talking about project feasibility analysis. In continuation to it, now how this project feasibility study is conducted. A feasibility study involves performing a detailed analysis of an existing business problem or opportunity, identifying the various solutions, alternatives available, and the probability of each option meets the requirement. The resulting document is called as feasibility study report, and it contains a complete description of the problem or opportunity at hand, list of criteria that the solution should address, list of all available alternatives by which the solution can be delivered, feasibility assessment of each of these alternatives, list of threats and challenges associated with each of the alternatives, and ranking of these alternatives, and the most preferred alternative preferred for implementation. A feasibility study report is presented by the senior leadership team to the business sponsor or client. A feasibility study may be conducted before concluding the business case, but generally they are conducted simultaneously so that the study is more thorough. What are the steps for conducting the project feasibility study? Examine the business problem or the opportunities, which includes a study of business environment. Before conducting a feasibility study, it is recommended to have a full understanding to the business problem to be addressed. This can be achieved by studying the business environment through the following: identify short, near, and long term business vision and strategies, identify department and its location, identify the information which is relevant to the project, list the data repositories and databases, list each technology relevant to the project with the description of its architecture and interfaces, and to list each organizational process relevant to the project with clear flow diagrams. Second one is the business study the business problem. Identify the central business problem which needs to be addressed. Note the reasons, the details of why the problem exists, its impact on the business, and the time frame in which it needs to be solved. These problems can be related to business process, which includes efficiency, robustness, timeliness, business unit, lack of clarity, alignment, inadequate performance, data quality, and third one is technology, its reliability, relevance, and scalability. Third one is the study the business opportunities. List business opportunities identified with details of why and how the opportunity currently exists and the time frame until which it is likely to remain. The examples can be the new market requirement, lack of competitors to meet a demand or change, new product ideas, and new technologies available to build products. Second one is to identify the requirement. Start with note the key business drivers. This includes examples such as a certain objective that has to be achieved within a predetermined time frame, alignment to a future change in legislation, regulation from a particular date, ability to achieve competitive first entry advantage available for a limited duration, and forthcoming changes in business or extended marketplace, will happen within a limited time frame. Second one is characterize the business requirement for each business problem or opportunity. List the requirement that needs to be satisfied for being qualified as an acceptable solution. The examples can be for a business problem of poor business efficiency, the business requirement should be a new process that involves efficiency. And for a business opportunity involving a new product launch, the business environment can be established for a new business unit to deliver the product. Thirdly, to undertake a feasibility study. Once the business environment, drivers, problems, and requirements are identified, a detailed feasibility study can be undertaken. Following is a step-by-step procedure for studying the feasibility of each of the problems and or opportunities. Initially, identify the potential solution. Generate a complete list of potential solutions to the business problem or opportunity. List the components of each of the potential solutions and describe the purpose of each of the potential solutions. Second one is to undertake the assessment. Assess the actual feasibility of each alternative solution through a range of methods, few of which are prototype building. Create a subset or a smaller version of the complete solution to prove that the solution of the product will look like or the process by which it will be achieved. Prototyping is developed generally for the highest risk area of the solution. For example, before building the Statue of Unity, the project team built three different sub-sized prototypes to seek inputs from all stakeholders. Imagine if they didn't build a prototype in the first place, how would they address the suggestions, criticism that would have been received after the actual statue is built? It includes study related to survey for project meant for internal consumption or development. Surveying staff members is useful. This study can assess how likely are the end users going to use the solution or what features are mandatory to get users buy-in and agreement for implementation flawlessly. Evaluate the results. Measure the overall result of each assessment through scoring in terms of how the actual values compare to these initially expected. For non-tangible or non-quantifiable considerations, the results need to be measured on a qualitative scale of perceptions of the survey respondents. Fourth one is identify any risk. List the foreseeable risks associated with the deployment of each solution. Risk are defined as an event that may cause to reduce or deny the effectiveness of the solution after the conclusion of the delivery. Also note that the probability of encountering the risk and its likely impact should the risk occur. While it is advisable to have risk mitigating actions for all those risks, at least those risks which are beyond a certain threshold should have robust risk mitigation actions. Prioritize the issues. This step is to look for issues that can be encountered while adopting any solution. Issues are different from risk in the sense they are certain while still adversely impacting the ability of the solution to produce the required output. The actions required to resolve a particular issue needs to be recorded and assigned appropriate priority rating so that while assessing the feasibility of a solution, then comes your record assumptions made on the study. List any assumptions that are considered as prerequisite for adopting any solution. For example, the study does not consider the possibility of change in any legislation or government policy or global events that will result in a particular situation. Rank the feasibility results. First of all, define the criteria. Specify the criteria used to rank each solution option and describe the scoring and the weighing mechanism used to produce an overall result. Give ranking scores. Score each option against the identified criteria and present in a sorted form with the higher score at the top and the lower ones at the bottom. Fifth one is identify the feasibility outcome. Based on the total score, what we have obtained, identify the most feasible option to be recommended for the implementation. Most often, the project feasibility report will list out two to three best options as the senior management might have an alternate strategy that they want to explore, and the project team should be prepared with multiple feasible options for their consideration. Now we move on to unit 3, that is related to project charter. As the conceptual stage of the project and before its initiation, there are requirements, conditions, and assumptions that form the boundary of the project. If the project is executed within this boundary, then it will deliver the expected results. The project charter is the document that contains this information. Besides, the project manager can also utilize this document within the organization as a formal authorization of the project, and as a result of this can legitimately claim the resources and funds from within the organization while executing the project. Now, what is a project charter? Project Management Body of Knowledge, that is PMBOK, from Project Management Institute, PMI, defines a project charter as a document formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to the project activities. Project Charter creates a link between the project and the strategic objectives of the organization. The primary reason why the project was conceptualized in the first place. It is also a formal document that is communicated to the supporting functions and departments of the organization, such as procurement, finance, and human resources, so that they can allocate the cost and resources to the project. It shows documentary evidence of an organization's commitment to undertaking a particular endeavor to achieve organizational objectives. The creation of the project charter is performed at least once at the start of the project and reviewed in predetermined situations as required. For projects that are undertaken to produce output for customers as a part of the contract, the project charter establishes a partnership between the performing and the requesting organization. An approved project charter serves as a formal initiative of the project. It is important to identify and formally assign a project manager, preferably as the project charter is taking shape, but certainly before the planning is initiated. As a result, the project manager will be aware of the various discussions and deliberations on the project specifies while preparing of charter and will be able to make the right judgment during the project. A mature based project based organization will have formal identified roles and functions such as sponsors and project or program management office. The project sponsor should be at level that is appropriate to secure funding and arrange resources for the project. Projects, irrespective of their nature, internal business or external influence, are meant to address a particular business case. What are the inputs to project charter? The project charter document the need that the project must address and is within the constraints of the organizational environment. External projects, it is also under the influence of agreements with the customer. These form the inputs to the project charter. We were talking about business case. It is the most utilized document while creating a project charter. The business case contains the necessary information about the expected outcome of the project, as well as the investment involved, and so contains the justification for undertaking the project from a business standpoint. The document contains the assumptions and considerations within which the project is conceived and therefore provides a boundary within which the project has to be executed to ensure that it remains viable. It is agreements such as MOU, what we call it as Memorandum of Understanding, or Service Level Agreements. In short, we call them as SLA, and the Letter of Intent, that is LOI, forms the basis of the need of the undertaking a project. In the case of an external contract, purchase order or contract is used. Factors external to the organizations serve as inputs to the project charter. These are government or industry standards, market conditions, regulatory constraints, stakeholders' expectation, etc. Third one is organizational assets, such as internal standards, framework policies, and procedures. Also, historical information and learned lessons repository of past projects. What are the tools and techniques to create a project chart? A project charter is prepared at the initiation of the project and is therefore very less details are known. Much of the content in the project charter is prepared through calculations and judgment based on available information and the team's capacity of articulating the very available data into logical assumptions. What are the different data gathering techniques? That is, first of all, as we all know that is brainstorm. It is used to generate a list of several options in a limited time. It is conducted with a group of people and facilitated by a facilitator. This method not only helps to create an idea but also analyzes these ideas further. Interviews. Interviews are used to get relevant information on assumptions, constraints, risks, gross understanding of the requirements, acceptance criteria, and other such information from any stakeholder through a direct conversation. The focus group technique. This technique is used when there are several stakeholders involved, most often from different areas, and a collective understanding is required. It is better than the interview technique as the resulting idea is obtained after reaching a consensus within the team. Then comes your interpersonal and team skills. Facilitation is the ability to effectively guide a group of coverage ideas and reach out to a mutually agreed understanding in the form of decisions or solutions. A facilitator is responsible to ensure that there is no bulldozing of ideas by a few, all individuals are heard and are motivated to contribute. The ideas are channelized towards the results, and the final output has a buy-in of all the parties participating in the process. Conflict management. This is used to deal with situations that may arise during group events to direct the team into meaningful discussions and avoid situations that may end up in distrust, non cooperation, and lack of participation among the participating members. Then comes your stakeholder analysis. In the project chartering stage, it is important to identify the stakeholders. While a detailed list and analysis of stakeholders may not be required or even feasible, key stakeholders should be identified and should feature in the stakeholder register. A stakeholder register is a term for the document which contains the name of the stakeholders in addition to other relevant details required for the project. Once key stakeholders are identified, a thorough understanding of what is the position of these stakeholders vis-a-vis the project is studied. This technique is called stakeholder analysis. A stakeholder analysis is a technique used for analyzing information to determine which stakeholders' interest to focus on and how to increase stakeholders' support throughout the project. There are several classifications models to perform a stakeholder analysis. One such model is the power interest grid. There are two parts of it. First one is low power, low interest. These stakeholders might not be priority attention, but should be monitored closely as they may enhance their level of interest or power. And the second one is low power, high interest. These stakeholders should be kept abreast of the happenings on the project. This is a grid basically, which is divided into four quarters. And on the vertical line, we move from low to high, and on the horizontal line, we move from low to high. That is in terms of the interest. Third one is high power, low interest. These stakeholders should be kept satisfied by the brief project updates, as while they may have less interest in the project. Going to high power, they can impact critical decisions of the project. The fourth one is high power, high interest. These stakeholders should be managed very closely to the point of developing working relationships and frequent communications. The team should identify ways and means to enhance their positive involvement in the project. What are the contents of the project charter? These contents of the project charter will also vary to meet individual project needs. Typical information included in a project charter includes the following: the name of the project and the date of approval, the name of the project key personnel and contact details, a high level schedule with planned start and finish dates, a brief of the project's estimated cost and budget allocation, a brief description of the objectives, business needs, or other justifications for the approval of the project. Project success criteria, including project approval requirement and who signs off the project. Summarize plan for managing the project. That is the brief of the project management plan. A role and responsibility matrix, that who will be doing what and who will be doing what which responsibility. Signatures of the key project stakeholders and the general comments and note section. Most project charters will be maximum of 2 pages as these are meant for executive level review. However, some project charters might run into several pages and can include team members' signatures also. How to create project management plan. Project management plan integrates all individual management plans for each knowledge area into a comprehensive, centralized document containing details of what is involved in the project. It also includes the finalized baseline for the project. This document is a repository of several subplans showing how the project will be executed, monitored, and controlled, and lastly, how it will be closed. The project requirements will determine which subsidiary management plan is required with what trigger. The project management plans will deal with how and not what over each of these knowledge areas. The project manager is responsible to create the project management plan. A project manager may not necessarily be an expert on all the technical and functional areas involved in the project. Hence, the project manager needs to be supported by the team members in creating the project management plan. A project team shall support the project manager with necessary details, technical inputs, and solutions to the project manager so that he can make a judicious decision about the project work. To maintain the exact understanding, the content is taken from the project management body of knowledge by the Project Management Institute. Here we see that, first of all, it is subsidiary management plans, which includes scope management plan, requirement management plan, schedule management plan, and so on. Second one is baselines that describe the scope baseline. It is an improved version of the scope statement, work breakdown structure, along with its associated dictionary. Second one is a scheduled baseline. It is an approved version of the project schedule containing all the list of the tasks and activities, including duration, start, and finish dates. And the third one is cost baseline, which is an improved version of a time-phased project budget that is used as a basis for comparing the actual result. Now, we move to block two, which includes, which is related to project planning, and it has three units: project scope management, project network analysis, which includes PERT and CPN, and then project scheduling. So we will be starting with unit four, that is related to project scope management. As we are aware, a project is a unique activity in the sense that you can't compare one project with other as there is a change in time, cost, and scope. Project managers are the custodians in charge of a single small project and are responsible for planning and scheduling the project. The scope is defined by the cost, time, and quality of the deliverable in project terms. Project scope management. It is a part of the project planning exercise. One needs to clearly draw a boundary with respect to all the aspects of the project, including all connected activities, resources, requirements, timelines, and deliverables. PSM also summarizes the key stakeholders, procedures, activities, hypotheses, and limitations, along with do's and don'ts too. Without a clear project scope statement, your project will end up beyond your team's ability to complete it due to delays, that is time overrun and cost overrun. How to define project scope? A project scope is a function of project objectives, goals, needs, limitations, deliverables, resources, and budget. A project manager needs to clearly document the project objectives, resource plan, if you have one, or planning resources, stating the budget requirement, time schedule for completing the project, constraints and deliverables at the end. Make sure that all the project stakeholders have clearly understood the project boundaries. What are the key steps for defining any project scope? Clearly defining the objectives, create a sound resource plan, budget requirement, it may be stage wise or phase wise. Project time duration, that is for the completion of the total project, along with the time taken to complete each stage of the project. Identify and clearly state the project deliverables. Define the key milestone stages of the project and the constraints if there are any, and drafting the scope document and getting them approved by all the stakeholders. Sometimes, due to the changing requirement, specifications and priorities, the project scope gets expanded over time and is known as scope creep. What are the examples of project scope creep? We talk about project, creating a website for the new venture which you are planning for. Following is the key ways the project scope might look like. That is key of project objectives. To create a user-friendly and attractive website for the new venture which is likely to browse smoothly. Second one is resources. Web designer team, two people, 30 hours of work a week for 3 weeks. Software manager, one person. He will work for 10 hours of work a week for 2 weeks, and IT and legal review. As for the statutory compliances, two teams, 4 hours of ad hoc work for a week. And now, the most important part is the budget. That is approximately 2 lakh rupees. Deliverables. User-friendly, attractive website has to be there, and which is project initiation and identifying the stakeholders in weeks time. Work breakdown structure, resource estimation and project estimation. Normally it will take 1 week. Drafting the project scope, another week. Project allocation, week. And designing the web page, because that is a very tedious job. That means it is going to take a maximum time. We may say 4 weeks. The final launch of the website will be done in fifth week. What are the priorities of a project? The project objectives answer what, when, and how much. It also defines the priorities of a project, which includes time, scope, and cost. One will have three scenarios on which these priorities are reviewed. These priorities will have constraints where no other options will be available because of the requirement is fixed with a parameter accepting whatever is available. And last, there is a chance of enhancement, optimizing over others. The reasons for project trade-off are due to the relative importance of criteria related cost, time, and scope. For example, if the date is fixed, then the project is in time. Constraints, scope, accept, and cost enhance, meaning the project must be completed on a specific date. The scope revert to meet the objectives of time and cost, and look for a possibility to reduce the cost. For the given priorities, one can have the following three scenarios. Priority one. The condition here is time constraint, scope accept, cost enhance. We can take up an example of corona vaccine or energy efficient engine. In second case, that is priority scenario two, here the time constraint, scope enhance, and cost accept, which is a wedding party in India or a birthday celebration. Third one is priority scope 3, which is under the conditions of time accept, scope constraint, and cost accept. Here, it is construction of a living colony on the moon and hyperloop transport system. Then comes your work breakdown structure. That is, in short, we call it as WBS. Work breakdown structure is a project management tool which establishes a step by step approach for completing any kind of project, which ranges from very small to complex. WBS will help in planning various deliverables and timelines. WBS is used to estimate the time, cost, and scope which are required for a project. This is a top-down approach for making the work packages to an extent of smallest assignment where there is a very slim scope for subjectivity. WBS is breaking down the project into possible levels where there is much scope for objectivity to estimate the appropriate requirement of time, cost, and scope. WBS level depends on the size and complexity of the project. Smaller projects will have a maximum of two levels, and a complex project like the Mangalyaan mission may have multiple levels. So, how this hierarchical composition of WBS works? Project 1, level 1 is project, that is a complete project. Level 2 is major deliverables. Level 3 is sub deliverables. Level 4, sub deliverables, that means below that. Level 5 is cost resource account, and which includes summing of work packages for monitoring progress and responsibility. Level 6 is related to work packages assignments. We take up an example of the school building. Initially, there are different stages of building or creating a school building. First of all, it starts from site preparation, then includes site cleaning, fencing, that means you are acquiring that land. Then come your buy resources, estimate cost, now to buy material and equipments and recruit manpower. Thirdly, it moves to the construction of the building, build foundation, build structure, painting, plumbing. Then clean up or remove the scrap. Then comes on the fifth level, it comes handover deliverables. That means in that stage, the building will be handed over to the authorities. If we take up a construction of a house example, in that case, different works are there. If we talk about level one, which includes internal, and the elements are electrical and plumbing. If we talk about the foundation, that means you have to excavate and steel erection. Third one, external part, that is masonry work or building finishes. This construction of a house has been broken up into three components. What are the advantages of WBS? WBS is a widely used project management tool for decision making. It allows evaluation of the cost, time, and technical performance of a project along with the organization which is executing the project. It helps in project planning, time scheduling, and budget estimation. It describes communication channel and helps in coordinating various projects, components, and stakeholders. It enables management with the required information to various departments and function in the organization. It also assists in the development of an organization breakdown structure, which helps in assigning project responsibilities to various departments, centers, units, and individuals. Work packages. The work package is the lowest bottom level of the work breakdown structure. which gives quantifiable subjective parameters, such as at the work package level, one can easily estimate how much work is there and how much work needs to be done. Second one is what are the resources required for completing the work can be easily assessed. Third one is easy to estimate the time taken to complete the work. Fourthly, it identifies the number of manpower required to complete the work package. And lastly, it determines milestone in the work package completion. What is responsibility matrix? It is a simple matrix used by the project manager in assisting roles and responsibilities for individuals to complete the task deliverables assigned to them. Responsibility matrix is also called as linear responsibility chart, which identifies the list of tasks to be accomplished and the responsibility of individuals with respect to a particular task completion in the project. Now, we move to Unit 5, that is Project Network Analysis. Under this, we will be talking about PERT and CPM. To start with, first of all, we will be discussing about network analysis. Network analysis is a method of planning and controlling projects by recording their interdependence on a diagrammatic form that enables each fundamental problem involved to be tackled separately. Network analysis clearly shows the interdependence between jobs to be performed in context of a project and thus enables people to see not only the overall plan but the ways in which their own activity depends upon or influence those of others. It allows the total requirement of man, material, money, machinery, and space resources to be readily calculated and also indicates where the delaying of non-critical jobs, that is, the jobs which do not immediately affect the duration of the project, may be used for optimal utilization of resources. Network analysis is a technique related to sequencing problems which are concerned with minimizing some measure or performance of the system, such as the total completion time of the project, the overall cost, and so on. The technique is useful for describing the elements in a complex situation for the purpose of designing, planning, coordinating, controlling, and making decisions. A network is a graphical representation of logically and sequentially connected arrows and nodes, representing the activities and events, respectively, of a project. An event is the beginning and the end point of the activity and is represented by a node. Network scheduling is a technique used for planning, scheduling large projects in the field of construction, maintenance, fabrication, etc. It is a tool for minimizing problems in the execution and controlling critical factors in a project. Program evaluation review technique, what we call it as PERT, and the critical path method, what we in short call it as CPM, are two planning and control techniques for keeping a project schedule on track to complete within the scheduled time. The critical path method or critical path analysis CPA is an algorithm of scheduling a set of project activities. It is commonly used in conjunction with Program Evaluation Review Technique. In short, we call it as PERT. A critical path is determined by identifying the longest stretch of dependent activities and measuring the time required to complete them from start to the finish. The program or project evaluation and review technique, it is a statistical tool used in project management which was designed to analyze and represent the tasks involved in completing a given project. Network concept, meaning and objective of network analysis. Network analysis is a method of planning and controlling projects by recording their interdependence in a diagrammatic form that enables each fundamental problem involved to be tackled separately. The main objective of the network analysis are to foster increased orderliness and consistency in the planning and evaluating of all areas in the project, to provide an automatic mechanism for the identification of potential trouble spots in all the areas which rise as a result of failure in work. Thirdly, to structure a method to give operational flexibility to the program by allowing the experimentation in a stimulated sense. Fourthly, to effect speedy handling and analysis of the integrated data, thus following for expeditious correction of recognized trouble areas in project management. Steps involved in network analysis. Network analysis achieves their purpose in three broad steps. First one, they represent in diagrammatic form a picture of all the objects or activities to be accomplished and of their dependence on one another. The way in which this is done is to construct what is known as network diagram, in which each job is represented by an arrow in the diagram. The way in which the arrows are linked indicates the dependencies of the job on each other. Secondly, they consider the limitations imposed by the availability of the resources, which can be in the form of man, machine, manpower, and material. And view of these estimates the time required to do each job. And thirdly, they apply the estimated job time to the network diagram and then analyze the network. Analysis in this case means the calculation of total length of time involved in each path through the network. What is the significance of network analysis? Now, the question is why we are learning and why we are discussing. Network analysis clearly shows the interdependence between jobs to be performed in context of a project and thus enables people to see not only the overall plan but the way in which their activities depend on the influence of others. Secondly, by splitting up the project into smaller activities, it consists in the estimation of their durations and thereby leading to more accurate targets. Thirdly, it enables stricter control to be applied since any deviation from the schedule is quickly noticed. And lastly, it allows the total requirement of man, material, machinery, and space resources to be readily calculated and also indicates where the delay of non-critical job may be used for optimum utilization of resources. Fifth one is to identification of the critical path. It has two advantages. If the completion date has to be advanced, attention can be concentrated on speeding up the relatively few critical jobs. Secondly, money is not wasted on speeding up non-critical jobs. It also allows modification of policy to be built easily, and their impact can also be assessed quickly. It allows schedules to be based on consideration of costs so as to complete projects in a given time at minimum expenses. What are the limitations of network analysis? The only real disadvantage of network analysis as a planning tool is that it is a tedious and exacting task if attempted manually. The calculations are done in terms of the sequence of activities, and this is all that is required. A project involving several hundred activities may be attempted manually. We have standard computers programs for network analysis, which can handle project plans up to 5,000 activities and more, and can produce output in various forms. A computer only consists with the calculation and with the printing of prints of operations sorted into various orders. The project manager is still responsible for the planning and must still make the necessary decisions based upon the information supplied by the computer. The computer cannot take over this responsibility. Equally important is the fact that the computer output is only as accurate as its input, which is supplied in the first instance by human beings. What are the rules of drawing the network construction? Network scheduling is a technique used for planning and scheduling large projects in the field of construction, maintenance, fabrications, purchasing computer systems, etc. The technique is a method of minimizing the trouble spots such as production, delays, and interruptions by determining critical factors and coordinating various parts of overall job. There are two basic planning and control techniques that utilizes a network to complete a predetermined project or schedule. These are program evaluation review technique, that is PERT, and the second one is critical path method, that is CP. A project is defined as a combination of interrelated activities, all of which must be executed in a certain order for its completion. The work involved in a project can be divided into three phases corresponding to the management function of planning, scheduling, and control. We'll start with planning. This phase involves setting the objectives of the project and the assumptions to be made. Also, it involves the listing of tasks or jobs that must be performed to complete a project under consideration. In this phase, man, machine, and materials required for the project, in addition to the estimates of cost and duration of the various activities of the project, are also determined. Second one is scheduling. This consists of laying the activities according to the precedence order and determining the start and finish time of each activity. Secondly, the critical path on which the activities require special attention. And the thirdly, slack and float for the non-critical paths. Third one is the controlling. This phase is exercised after the planning and scheduling, which involves making periodical progress reports, reviewing the progress, analyzing the status of the project, and management decisions regarding updating, crashing, and resource allocation. Now, you might have heard different new terms. So, in short, we will be talking about what these all basic terms mean. To understand network techniques, one should be familiar with the few basic form terms of the CPM and PERT. Initially, it is network. It is the graphical representation of logically and sequentially connected arrows and nodes representing activities and events of the project. Networks are also called arrow diagrams. Second one is activity. An activity represents some action and it is a time consuming effort necessary to complete a particular part of the overall project. Thus, each and every activity has a point of time where it begins and the point of time where it ends. This is represented by a network, by an arrow. Here, A is called the activity. Event, the beginning and the end point of an activity are called event or nodes. Event is a point in the time and does not consume any resource. It is represented by a numbered circle. You can see the head event called the jth event and has a number higher than the tail event called the ith event. Merge and burst events. It is not necessary for an event to be ending. Event of any one project or activity, but can be the ending event of two or more activities. Such events are called merge events. That means in the diagram you can see that on the circle there are three arrows. That means we can say that three activities are merging on this node. If the event happens to be beginning event of two or more activities, it is defined as burst event. That means you can say different branches are, different arrows are coming from a particular node. Then comes your preceding, succeeding, and concurrent activities. Activities must be accomplished before a given event can occur, are termed as preceding activities. Activities which cannot be accomplished until an event has occurred are termed as succeeding activities. Activities which can be accomplished concurrently are known as concurrent activities. Dummy activity. Certain activities which neither consumes time nor resources but are used simply to represent a connection or a link between the events are known as dummies. It is shown in the network by a dotted line. The purpose of introducing dummy activity is to maintain uniqueness in the numbering system, as every activity may have a distinct set of events by which the activity can be identified. And secondly, to maintain a proper logic in the network. Common errors. There are three common errors which are normally performed while we are constructing a network diagram. First one is looping, that is cycling. In a network diagram, looping error is also known as cycling error. Drawing an endless loop in a network is known as error of looping. A loop can be formed if an activity were represented as going back in time. Let's see a loop. Second one is dangling. To disconnect an activity before the completion of all the activities in a network diagram is known as dangling. Redundancy. If a dummy activity is the only activity animating from an event and which can be eliminated is known as redundancy. There is no need of providing this dummy activity. We can merge where activity A and C are merged. What are the rules for network construction? There are a number of rules in connection with the dangling of activity and the activities of a project network. First, try to avoid arrows which cross each other like this. Use straight arrows. No event can occur until every activity preceding it has been completed. An event cannot occur twice, that is, there must be no loop. An activity succeeding an event cannot be started until that event has occurred. And use arrows from left to right, that means like this. Avoid mixing two directions. Vertical and standing arrows may be used if necessary. Dummies should be introduced if it is extremely necessary. The network has only one entry point called the start and the event and the one point of emergence called the event or terminal. With this, we will be concluding today's session.